On this episode, we take the all-new Hyundai Tucson Hybrid into the woods, where we encounter some unexpected gremlins. That's coming up right now on Driving Sports TV. For 2022, the Hyundai Tucson gets bolder styling, improved technology, and an all-new hybrid powertrain. Though Hyundai has offered hybrids in other models, this is the first for the popular Tucson, giving Hyundai a direct competitor to the Honda CR-V and Toyota RAV4 hybrid offerings. First, let's take a look at some of the exterior details. Sharp lines dominate on the sides, back, and pretty much everywhere else. If you've seen the ads, you've already seen the hidden grille lights. They're a nice touch, but hardly something to get really excited about. The model we're testing today is the loaded limited hybrid. Price as you see it here, $38,704 US, including destination. All Tucson hybrid models come standard with a 1.6-liter four-cylinder turbo engine mated to an electric motor for a combined 226 horsepower. This sends power to all four wheels through Hyundai's H-Track center clutch-based all-wheel drive system. Unlike the Toyota RAV4 hybrid, which uses a dedicated electric motor to power the rear wheels, the Hyundai Tucson hybrid takes a more traditional approach by combining both electric and petrol power up front and using a propeller shaft to power the rear. The only transmission option is a 6-speed automatic. Towing capacity is limited to 2,000 pounds. EPA rates economy of the limited hybrid at 37 mpgs in the city and 36 on the highway. The back opens automatically if you approach with a key in your pocket. This can be annoying if you just happen to be standing near the back, but don't intend to open the vehicle. I personally prefer using a foot sensor, which is the approach found on other vehicles. Inside, there is 38.8 cubic feet behind the second row. Use the handy levers to fold the seats flat, and you get up to 74.5 total cubic feet of storage. Under the false floor is some additional storage, but no spare. If you need to get your Tucson out of a tight parking spot, our limited hybrid came with the Smart Park Assist, which lets you use your key fob like a remote control. Of course, you can also use it to ease your car into a narrow parking spot just as easily. Now let's check out the interior.
The back seats are kind of like sitting on a park bench, but I have tons of legroom. My headroom is okay. And right here I have a fold-down armrest with integrated cup holders. Oh, and up here, two standard USB sockets. And in the second row, I also get 2 stages of heat. This is different. What they've done is they've gotten rid of covers over the display, and no longer is the central infotainment mounted up here randomly. It's actually integrated into the dash. I'd love to see that. The big question is, once we get out and about, will the lack of a sunshade cause a problem in visibility? Right now I have a little sun directly on the gauge cluster down there, and it actually looks fine. Let's look at the rest of this interior. It is a small crossover, so everything is pretty compact. We have this just lovely extra wide display. The icons are a little on the small side, but I do like the fact that they have some little touches of color. Kia uses a very similar system, and they don't really use much color in theirs. This one, at least, there's little elements here that make it a little bit easier for my eyes to key on what I want to see. Although I kind of prefer the Honda system, which uses very bold colors to help you immediately see what you're doing out of the corner of your eye. The seats are a little on the firm side, but they seem to be sculpted very nicely. I have power adjustments down here, and in terms of extra features, I have both heat and ventilation, which you usually don't get on this size of a vehicle.
It also has memory for up to 2 seat positions.
The steering wheel is wrapped in leather or leatherette, and you get paddle shifters too, which is very nice. Other things, we have just a huge panoramic sunroof. I mean, that thing fills the entire top of the vehicle. For the transmission, we have push buttons now. The nice thing about push buttons is you don't have a big shifter stalk in the way, so it makes getting to cup holders a little easier than you would normally be able to do. Also, they've incorporated drive modes with a little lever here. Oh, those actually switch very quickly. I kind of like that. And like all other Hyundais, it changes the design of the gauge cluster, though the information is very similar in all modes. The only real change is when I go to Sport and Smart, which do give me a tack on the right, Eco and Snow give me a power gauge instead, which is more tied in with the hybrid powertrain, because this is the hybrid. You can get this one in a variety of different powertrains. The one we're testing today is the hybrid with H-Track all-wheel drive. There is no off-road mode, but there is a hill descent control. We'll try that out later. Also, they've done away with physical switchgear here, which usually not a fan. Let's see how quickly these respond to my touching. I guess that's okay. It's not so bad. We'll have to see while driving if that's as easy to use. Now, we do get dual zone climate control here, and that's something that Hyundai does really good. Some manufacturers really withhold features unless you go with their bigger, more feature-laden models. But Hyundai doesn't do that. I mean, here is a compact crossover, and it has not just heated and cooled seats, but it also has dual zone climate control. I'm really happy to see that there.
The digital gauge cluster you see here is standard on all but base hybrid trims. In addition to standard gauges, you can configure the center of the screen to show power use, mileage stats, navigation, and other useful things. Only the Limited gets the extra feature of integrated cameras to show you your blind spots directly inside the gauges. A 10.25-inch touchscreen infotainment system is standard on the Limited. Lower trims get an 8-inch model. This is fully integrated with the Tucson, allowing you to adjust a variety of settings. Built-in navigation is fast and easy to use, and it even supports freestyle search for independent coffee houses like Cafe Ladro, which you see here. The Kia Sorento we reviewed just a few weeks ago, which does use a very similar nav system, was unable to do this. Beyond that, the Tucson system supports both terrestrial and satellite radio systems, in addition to the Bose Sounds of Nature catalog, which I have yet to really understand why anybody would want this.
Of course, the system does support Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. I have an Apple device, so I will try out CarPlay. Now it is plug-in, CarPlay enabled, and boom, there we go. You can do Apple CarPlay either as a window on the left, or you can go full screen. That's a setting in the setup of the interface here. I kind of like it windowed so that I still can look at other things on that little right pane. Let's talk about active safety. This is loaded with stuff. You have blind spot monitoring, collision mitigation. It does have a backup camera as well as a surround view in a compact crossover and adaptive cruise control with lane centering. We'll try that out when we're on the freeway. They have so many good things in this vehicle. It's not all perfect though. There's some materials I'm not terribly fond of. And of course, the lack of physical buttons is a miss in my book. But I think I'm going to approach this with an open mind, and we'll take it out and see how it drives, and then we'll take it up to the mountains and see what this all-wheel drive system with the hybrid powertrain is capable of. Floor it. That gets up to speed pretty quickly. It is, of course, a hybrid powertrain, which means it has a combined 1.6-liter gas engine as well as an electric motor. And together, they give it ample thrust to get up to speed. Now, it's not the fastest thing on the planet, that's for sure. But, you know, for this size and for this class and for the consumer that it's targeting, I think it's more than enough. Now, there's a lot of cool active safety tech on this vehicle, and of course it has adaptive cruise control. Turn it on, I just hit a button there. I make sure lane centering is turned on, which it is. I can then set my pace, and we're off to the races. Now, what this will do is it'll use the camera up here to find the lanes and keep us centered even as the freeway is turning. Now, this isn't designed for twisty highways. It is really just for multi-lane freeways. And it does a very good job of keeping the vehicle centered, keeping the pacing in front of me, and it's not jarring. It's like if you have a car come in front of you or move away, it's not like indecisive. It's a very decisive and smooth system. I think it's actually one of the better adaptive cruise controls you can get on a car today. And it actually works really well. So that's a win right there. Now, on the freeway here, there is something that I am noticing. It's been a little bit of full sun and cloud today. Right now we have clouds, but these displays, when I first saw them, I was like, wow, there's no shade over them. They are exposed to all the sunlight. These are going to be really hard to read, especially when the sun comes out and is right on top of them. I was totally wrong. These things are super easy to read. I don't know what magical coating they have on top of them, but even in direct, glary sunlight, they're still clear as day. Freeway, it's actually not terribly loud in here for the class. This isn't too bad at all, actually. It's just listening to the freeway. This is a fairly loud strip of freeway, and it's really not too bad. I have pretty good seating position. These seats do feel a little bit on the flat and firm side. I don't think they would be good for really long trips. Visibility is pretty good, actually. Nope, visibility is great. Yeah, this is a fun little car to drive. Let's go ahead and duck off the freeway here and jump onto a forest road to see how this thing does in a different driving situation. There are various drive modes on tap, and when we switch them up, it does change the display slightly. Instead of a tack on the right, I now get a power eco charge thing when I'm in smart mode. But let's go ahead and switch it into sport, which should give us the most aggressive battery usage, give us the most torque off the line, and make this thing as perky as it can be. Steering is pretty good, actually. I like the weight of the steering wheel in sport mode. It's really nice. It's a little too light in the other modes, but I think in sport mode, it's right on. I'd probably just drive in sport mode 90% of the time. The suspension is not adjustable, but I think the general spring rates are good for, roads like this. And for general use around town, it's a little bouncy. When you're over 40 miles an hour and you floor it, it's a real slow march up the speedo. And that's probably because it feels faster than it is. And the reason for that is because, of course, the electric motor, which has 100% of torque at 0 RPM, that really helps with, starting from zero. It really gives you a lot of thrust out of the hole, but doesn't really bring you up to high speeds because at that point, the small 1.6 liter gas motor takes over. And let's see how this thing does with the 0 to 60. I am guessing it's going to be slower than 7, probably around 8. I have it in sport mode. That's all I'm doing. 3, 2, 1, go. Drop the hammer. And, pretty quick off the line. But I think it's going to run out of wind here. And 60. 7.29 seconds. It's actually a little better than I thought. Now that we've driven a little bit on pavement, let's go ahead and dip into the forest and see how good this hybrid all-wheel drive system is. So as we're climbing into the mountains here, I can kind of feel what this transmission does in somewhat slippery situations. Now this is a standard 6-speed automatic. Many Kias and Hyundais are moving over to dual clutch units, but this doesn't have that. And I'm kind of glad because I've had some mixed results with the dual clutch. Everything from overheating in the old design to kind of feeling like it's not physically connected in the new design. There's always been something weird about those dual clutch. But this one, it's doing exactly what I want when I want it. You couldn't ask for more than that, right? As we approach the first obstacle, I have the front camera on, which shows me my approach, but then also shows a full satellite-like view, which is cool. Very useful in situations like this. It would be nice if we had wheel track marks, but I guess you can't ask for everything. Okay, so this is the first test, and some hybrids have had some issues down here. On the left, we have very sharp rock, and on the right, we have gravel. So this kind of mixes up the traction situation, and neither side has a lot of grip. So I'm just going to approach very slowly because the rocks are so sharp and I am on all season radials. Let's switch to status of the all-wheel drive system. So as I put in throttle, it's showing me power to all four corners, a little more to the front than the back, which is interesting considering we're on an incline. Normally you would want more to the back, but I guess it's the best it can muster right now. Okay, that's actually doing pretty good. It's a little jittery though, like doot, 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 doot. Yeah, it's jittery. What is going on there? Let me back up and do that again. That's not the rocks doing that. That's the throttle. So it's in eco mode. Let me switch to smart mode. I'm going to go over that again. It's showing me a lot of power equal, front and back, front and back. And now the throttle is smooth. So if you're on trail, do not go into eco mode. Go into smart mode at the very least. Okay, now that we've tackled that first little obstacle, let's go up to the real test. Now this rock trail, we use this to test out the all-wheel drive systems on vehicles because it does a really good job of completely removing traction or minimizing traction on certain wheels, and in many cases, cross to cross, which really tests out these systems. And what we learn here can also be applied to other slippery situations, such as, snow, mud, same basic concept. Not identical, but close. So the way this Tucson is set up is that it has a gas motor and an electric motor up front. That then runs a prop shaft that brings power to the back wheels as necessary. Now, what I don't know is whether or not this has individual wheel braking for trail situations. We are going to find out together. I may not be able to see it inside the vehicle or feel it. Maybe I can, but you'll definitely be able to see it from the outside. So as we do this, keep an eye on individual tires and see if, instead of just spinning free, if they kind of slow or jerk. When they do that, that is relieving power from going out of that wheel, which then means that that power has to go through a wheel with grip. It's a really cool system. A lot of vehicles do it these days. Hopefully this one does as well. Okay, we are in drive. I'm in smart mode, and that's basically it. Now I can hit the lock button here. What that does, I'm going to go ahead and hit it, is it tells the computer to keep those rear wheels engaged. It is not a differential lock, even though Hyundai likes to say that it is. It is really just telling the computer to keep those back wheels engaged. So I'm crawling along super slow. Even though we have 8.3 inches of ground clearance, which should be plenty for today, I'm just going to take it really easy because these are 19-inch wheels, there's not a lot of sidewall, and I don't want to get it flat. Oh, I'm getting that staccato motion again, even in smart mode. It's flashing traction control, but causing a very uncomfortable driving situation for me. I don't like that. Now let's just put it in. See, there's smart eco snow. I'm gonna keep it in smart, I guess. Hope we don't get that stuttering again. This portion right here takes traction completely off this tire and that tire. And since we're on an incline, it basically puts all of the work on that one tire in the back. This is a very tricky situation, and all cars kind of deal with it a little bit differently. This one is showing even power going to the front and to the back. I'm teetering just a little bit. I'm just putting a little throttle on. Gonna get some spin. Now I wonder what those wheels are doing on the outside. Oop, oop. Let's go back a little bit. Whoa, thrusters on. Hello. That was a lot of throttle, which I didn't request. I'm gonna go forward, creep up a little bit. Gonna smell a little tire. The battery is getting low, but it's still engaged. As we go, power to all four corners. And I'm full throttle and it's not moving. I have taken other hybrids up here, and they don't always do great. They're not quite this off. Come on, you gonna do it? You gonna shift power? Wow, I am full throttle, it's not doing anything. Traction control is kicking in. I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. This is not satisfactory. In reverse, I'm going to use a little more momentum. We have plenty of clearance with our nose here. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I don't get a puncture. Push through, push through, push through, push through. Ah. I'd much rather just crawl at 1 mile per hour through that instead of having to push my way through it. But this system didn't do great, so push it was. I mean, this is rough, but I've taken lots of other crossovers up here, and yeah, it's usually the hybrids that have problems because they don't put a lot of power to the back. But if this actually is a oh, man, it's cutting power completely. This is not, and now it's stuttering. As you can hear, the power is shifting around, but it's not really doing what I want. This throttle keeps just cutting off. And now I'm wide open throttle again, and it's just, it's doing nothing. Oh, is it eventually? No, it's not liking that. One more thing to test here, that's hill descent control. I kind of already know how this is going to go because it always does the same on a Hyundai. Hit downhill brake control, it enables. I'm now rolling at 1 mile per hour, which is nice, but I cannot adjust it in any way. And after 10 feet, is it going to release? So it's slowing. It's doing a pretty good job easing me down. Oh, actually, this is working pretty good. Okay, well, they got that right. Man, I really had high hopes for this vehicle. You know, it has a lot of power output for its size and for the class, and it has a lot of cool features like the surround view camera. These dual screens are very cool. It has a lot going on for it. But the powertrain, I don't know what that stuttering was. I have never experienced that in a car going up the hill. I did experience some other weirdness with the Kia Sorento, and of course Kia and Hyundai are related companies. And that one, it just felt like the transmission just completely disengaged, and it slowed me to almost a halt just on a normal hill. So there is some weirdness going on with these cars, and I don't know what it is. I assume it's just a tuning thing that they can possibly update with software. Around town, these vehicles are great, but in inclement weather, such as deep snow, or if you have to go up a trail to get to a trailhead, I think you should look elsewhere. Other vehicles can do that much better and more reliably and with more consistency. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, leave a comment. Tell us, what do you think? Is it kind of what you expected? Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again right here next week.